Our next conversation is going to be about political parties, political coalitions, how they are formed, at what point then they make sense to the individual parties that come into a coalition, and when do they stop making sense, if ever they do stop making sense. We've invited the Honorable Peter MUNYA. He's the party leader of the Party of National Unity, PNU. He's here. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very, very well.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you this morning.
Karibu sana to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
You're looking well. You're looking healthy. Yeah.
Well, I've had a break from hectic life of politics.
Yeah.
Though I'm not retired yet.
But you've
I am not
taken a break.
In a hectic office.
Yes.
So I'm been able to take a bit of a rest.
Siti, why don't you welcome the party leader with the day's proverb? This week, Mheshimiwa MUNYA, he is giving us proverbs from landlocked countries. Last week, this week, and next week, landlocked countries in Africa. So apart from Uganda, which other landlocked country would you tell us?
My goodness, there are many. Rwanda, Burundi, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Chad, Central Africa Republic,
Mheshimiwa, you really know your geography.
Yeah, was a waziri bwana.
No, yes.
I've been East African Minister for East Africa.
Yes.
I'm
also interested in African affairs.
I think that is the key thing, because we've had Africans who've been sitting on that same chair. Somebody looks at you and says, Somali. Say, oh, bro. This is a boy. Come on, Mtiani. You might have to Xerox, as we used to say. The proverb.
This week, which country?
We are in the Republic of Botswana. Now, they have an interesting government, Ndugu. The government is called a unitary dominant party parliamentary republic with an executive president. It's a very interesting mix. Yes. Unitary dominant party parliamentary republic with an executive president.
Very strange one.
Yes, it is. It is unique, and I think it's unique to their country.
Because if you are parliamentary, then how do you have an executive president?
They decided, whoever wrote those rules, it's okay. They can keep their rules.
Yes,
them they are writing they're writing their own.
Yes. But Mheshimiwa, South Africa is similar.
Right. South Africa is similar. South Africa is similar, but in my view, you describe the president of South Africa as president, but in reality, if he has to be removed, he's removed by the party.
Yes.
So is the name president, but he's really a prime minister. If you look at how the presidential and the parliamentary systems work, president description is okay for prestige and relations with outside countries, but in terms of his removal, it's the party that removes him. So the way a prime minister would be removed, or a vote of no confidence in parliament, which again, a presidential system purely, you've got to be impeached or voted out. You have a fixed term. They don't have a fixed term, because if the confidence of the party, you lose the confidence of your party.
We shall. So the dominant party.
So it's really still
it's
leaning towards parliamentary.
It's a dominant party that's speaking. It's a dominant party in parliament that is speaking the president.
Yes.
And then the president now here becomes head of government and head of state. So unlike now in the other parliamentary systems where you then have a separate head of state and a head of government coming from parliament.
That's the element now that makes it presidential, because it's still the end of state. It combines the end of state and
government
and end of government.
But it's interesting, because it means if you stop being dominant, then you don't have the free will to choose the president of your choice. You have to consult others. You have to barter. You have to bargain. It's an interesting check and balance.
ANC just did that.
Yes.
With the Democratic Alliance.
Yes.
But you see, it's a question of people structuring a government they think will serve them. Even this thing of parliamentary presidential is the way we stand in Western systems. But we assume Western systems are the governments. But the governments over history you study are quite different. So people thinking of their own way of crafting a government that can serve the people. Because at the end of the day, is how well can you be able to serve the people.
Okay.
The proverb?
To give away is to make provision for the future.
To give away is to make provisions for the future. What's your interpretation of this one?
To give away is to make provisions for the future. It's a very deep one. Give away is like, giving something.
Yes.
If there's negotiations of talking with people, you give away, you give something. It's like investing for the future.
Yes.
Because you can also get something back.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Might take Proverbs have many interpretations.
That's the point, and that's why your interpretation is absolutely correct. Because it is your interpretation of it. Yes.
So, Mheshimiwa, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition. PNU is one of the parties that make this, it's called what? Coalition of parties.
Yes.
Coalition party.
It's it's one of the coalition parties.
Yeah, in the coalition party.
Yes.
Because Azimio is a coalition party.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
And it made up of parties that come together. We have seen in the recent past, this conversation about Azimio. So what's the future of Azimio? If the leader, Raila Odinga, moves into AU, what happens to Azimio? Now that we are seeing ODM releasing its top leaders to go into government, what happens to Azimio? We have seen NARC Kenya writing to Azimio and saying, you know what, because of this, we are giving notice that we'd like to leave Azimio. We have had the same. We were quoted. In fact, we were listening to your clip here and saying, that's MUNYA. He's saying they're leaving. And then the next thing I see you standing next to the other Azimio leaders and you're speaking. What happened? So is PNU in Azimio or is it not?
A PNU is still in Azimio. Given an opinion, a personal opinion, that if things continue the way they are continuing, we are considering leaving. And indeed, I invited our NEC to consider, to look at whether we should stay or we should leave. And after a long discussion and consultations with other party members, other parties that are from the coalition, we agreed that it may not be opportune to leave at this point. We are stronger together. If we leave, if at all, then it's better even to leave as a group, so that we still have a coalition that can continue pushing for change, that we are pushing for providing leadership in the opposition.
What are these?
I got persuaded to that view. Instead of pulling out as PNU alone, we see if we can be able to bring change within Azimio. If we can't do that, then we still have that option.
Okay. What are these events that made you uncomfortable?
Yeah, the key event that has made us quite uncomfortable is the one you are calling donation of members of ODM into the Kenya Kwanza government. There had been discussions being reported and being told by our leader in Azimio that there was an approach. He had been approached and there had been discussions to join government. And we had discussed and agreed that it was not right to join government because the issues that we have been pushing, doing demonstrations, Gen Z demonstrations, and even demonstrations led by our leader himself, had not been resolved. And we thought we are better off continuing to play opposition politics. And we reached a point where there was an agreement that if at any point it became necessary for the opposition to join government, then it has to be a government that is established by law, like the one enjoined at some point with Kibaki, where there was an accord that clearly spelled out what that government was going to do, and that guaranteed the possibility of people joining, being able to have the latitude to do the things they would want to do. So we said, without those negotiations that provide a legal framework, that guarantee that you are going there to sort out specific issues that are being talked about. Indeed, we agree that unless it's like an interim government that provide a framework for bringing changes in the country, constitutional changes, changes that would address the economic issues, then it will not be right to join the government. You would be off paying, giving this government that is under a lot of pressure, a lifeline.
So this is what the Azimio partners sat and you told your leader?
Yes.
Following the approach that had been made to him?
Yes.
And so was it consensus? Was there consensus that, yes, let us not join government?
Yes, indeed, there was a consensus.
Was there clarification on what joining government would mean? Did you say that let us not join government as Azimio as a party, as a coalition party? Let us not join government as any constituent parties, but it's okay if individuals join government?
It was never agreed that it was okay if individuals join government.
Was there a conversation like that?
It was agreed, as I've explained, and a PNG for ODM was actually convened, and it was followed by a PNG also of the coalition parties. And if you remember, there was some disruption of some kind when we were addressing a press conference.
Yeah.
That communication is what we were communicating, what we had agreed. So it was agreed, actually, that actually the 3 points that we were agreed on was, first of all, justice for people who have been killed and maimed and property destroyed, to set a climate for that kind of a discussion, and then a discussion that would create a framework that would create an interim government. And we said any other circumstances would be self-serving, and it would also be helping this government, giving it a lifeline to survive. And then, of course, after that discussion, that's when we saw people joining. Then another meeting was convened to ask why. And we were told, these are individuals.
Not the party.
Not the party. We were not convinced.
News about individuals being approached was floating around. It was in the public. And now, particularly for you as party leaders, you must have heard that there have been approaches to individuals, or that names have been floated of individuals who could join the government. There were even talk of maybe even some members coming to meetings and speaking as if they're trying to persuade, the leadership of the political parties in Azimio to say, we can actually get, ODM can get number of seats, Jubilee can get a number of seats, Wiper can get one of those seats. Was there any conversation like that among your peers?
Well,
of somebody coming to say, guys, I've been approached.
Yes. There was a meeting when we got rid of the fact that there were individuals joining. We got information that, other parties had been offered positions. Those parties rejected, like Wiper. And in our discussion, we said our position remains that if ever that happens, it has to be in a structured manner where there is a law that provides for it. And we were told these are individuals. And we were told that the party is going to meet to release them to join government.
But was the party releasing them, or were they being relieved of the positions they held within the party? Because if we were to believe the utterances that have been attributed to some of these people, in the interview, they said they are still in the party. And some even added adjective to it. They are still strong members of the party.
I wouldn't doubt if they are saying they are strong members. Because
who are you to doubt?
Who am I to doubt? If a party donates 2 deputy party leaders a minority leader in parliament.
The chairman of their party.
The chairman of the party.
The head of the political wing of the party.
How?
The most highly... The organ... These people represent the highest ranking officers within the party, outside the party leader.
Absolutely.
And we are saying that, okay, you have a situation where, let me give a war analogy. We are at war with country X, okay? And we've been at war for some time. We've gotten to a point where country X is clearly in retreat. Then we say, look, let's solve this problem. Let's give you 4 of our generals. Okay? 2 are 4-star generals.
Vice CDF.
Yes. 2 vice CDFs. Okay, there's a 2-star general here. There's even a 1-star general here. But this is our contribution towards this process.
Your retreat.
Your retreat, because you are clearly in retreat. Does it really make sense?
It doesn't make sense. I can't put it better than you have done. Because it's exactly like that. There is a war going on.
Yes.
A political war. The opposition is saying this government is not taking the country in the right direction. And there are issues, very weighty issues. The country itself is saying, the population is saying that we have a problem. And your army has been the one pushing for this change, and then all of a sudden you are donating your generals to the other side.
How?
It's a very good analogy, by the way, Sita.
And you still want to say, I belong to this, I'm still leading this army.
How is it that you have now joined the people whom you have been at war with, and you still want us to believe that having joined them, you are still with the other side? That logic is bizarre. I find it, well, we live in a new age, in a new dispensation, so maybe it's logic that other people understand better than I, but in my mind, it defies what I would refer to as common logic.
Which is why, Mheshimiwa, then you've seen the reaction, and the reaction is that the political class is just regrouping. Because the demonstrations this time did not come from the established political system. That unlike last year, where the established political system in the opposition or minority was pushing and agitating on the streets, this time is a different group. And it's a sizable group that has come up. So the political system has felt threatened, and you're regrouping. And all of you, even as you appear to be, disagreeing up here, bottom line, all of you are sort of in agreement that this is safer for us. It guarantees our survival as the political class. It guarantees that at least we have some sense of another day to live and fight.
I would agree with you. There is a regrouping, that's for sure. But I wouldn't say it's the entire political class that is regrouping. And that's why some of us are saying, no, we can't continue this way. So it's not the entire political class. If 2 leading figures in our political class meet behind closed doors and make an agreement on how they want to work together, does that make it the entire political class? Because the same questions you're asking, we are also asking. And all these meetings we have been meeting is to ask these questions. Have we abandoned the quest to bring meaningful changes in the country? Have we abandoned, because the demonstrations that proceeded, there were other demonstrations led by our side of the political divide. Does it mean we have abandoned all that now? We want to negotiate our own share? Is it what it was all about?
And that's the argument.
Is this what it was all about?
That you actually did that with the National Dialogue Committee, where I crystallized your issues and the issues that Kenya Kwanza had, and meetings that were held, led by senior leaders from your side and leaders from the Kenya Kwanza side, an agreement and a report that was signed by all but one of your members, then that means that, yes, you had actually agreed that those were the issues. The issues that were important were form an office and call it leader of official opposition. The issues that were important were incorporate us in the selection panel of the next IEBC. The issues that were important were, let's just put in something there to say, we shall review the election of 2022, we shall do some audit, but not even say how that audit shall happen. That you'd already agreed that, we've got to note something, one or two things. And so now when the Gen Z are coming and their push is for accountability, you are right there, lost at sea.
Yeah, I cannot argue with that argument because we had issues with that committee ourselves, even internally, because of what you are saying. And at one point, it's true, we agreed. We say, just for pragmatism, because there are certain things that must happen. We need an IBC for sure. We said, if that can be recruited as we move along, that is okay. There was also a discussion on whether getting positions is important. We said on our side, we don't think positions is what we are looking for. But it was said it is the other side that had brought those specific agendas into the discussion. So if you see the report clearly, you see there were disagreements. There was an agenda brought by the Kenya Kwanza government and an agenda brought by our side. Now, since it was a discussion, we disagreed on some of the agenda, like the issue of cost of living was our key issue, which the other side said, no, you are not government, we are government. We are the ones who are going to address that issue. So even though that report was taken, there were misgivings, a lot of misgivings within our team, that it didn't go as far as we would have wanted it to go. But we said we still continue with our push to get the changes we required. So we never abandoned, said now we have agreed, we are moving forward. No, we said we'll continue pushing for cost of living, we'll continue pushing for the changes we require, even as some of the gains like the IEBC, which we required, we needed, continue to be implemented.
The Honorable Peter MUNYA, party leader of the Party of National Unity, PNU, is our guest. PNU is one of the member parties of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party. Political coalition party. What's that thing called? You're a lawyer. What did you guys call it in the elections?
It's a coalition political parties
party. Coalition political party. That one. Azimio is a coalition political party, bringing together political parties into that coalition.
Let me respond by asking a different question. If you look at the gathering of the political leadership of this country, and when you consider that they refer to themselves as honorable members, are they really honorable? You see, the discussion we have here hinges on that virtue, something we call honor. Okay, but if we look at the gamesmanship and the brinkmanships that our political class exhibit, time and again, these coalitions, as we call them, they're not really coalitions in my mind. It's like a getting together for purposes of survival. Whether it was in the Kibaki era, whether it is Uhuru, there are those who claim that they see a threat. There's only one individual who has been in all these, well, not really. He wasn't there during the Kadu days, but we see it. Now, in the absence of the members of our political class being honorable, and the honor that I speak of here is being front and center in pursuing what is in the interest of the people they represent. Because some of these things that we see don't necessarily represent a better life for the citizenry. It's just chess. People have moved around, so-and-so has left, so-and-so has come in. And the thing is, again, they're all politicians. So you're asking ODM and its sell-by date. Let's look at KANU. Who would have thought that KANU would disintegrate and become a pale shadow of what it once was? Everything has its sell-by date. Everything. Every political party. The only way political parties survive is they have structures which are stronger than individuals. Then it doesn't really matter. When an individual goes, there are always people, because there's a succession plan, there's a structure within which people rise up, people give way. But that, unfortunately, isn't our politics. That's not how we play our politics. Because the structure is a person in our politics. And that's why we have party leaders. So, Mheshimiwa here, our friend who visits us from time to time, though the time is really very well interspersed. Yes. It would be good to ask him.
You come to somebody's home when you are invited.
No. You pass by to say hello.
You can pass by also and
say hello.
Yes, for sure.
So, to answer your question, if indeed our party and our political parties and the systems that we have exist in the manner that they do, they will be as strong as the person whom we refer to as the party leader of that particular party. That will be the strength of that particular party. Yes.
With the crux that we're seeing, then, Mheshimiwa, again into that question. So, there are many of you who are unhappy with the latest developments. Wiper has expressed, discomfort. PNU has done the same. NARC Kenya has done the same. Jubilee has done that, right? What does that tell us then about, Azimio? What does it need to hold together?
Even the question you would ask is whether it is necessary to hold together. What is the mission? Because we seem to have lost the mission. We are an opposition coalition. We are supposed to be pushing a coalition agenda, an opposition agenda to keep making Kenya better, even as we pursue power in the next election. Now, if our key partners within the coalition seems to have decided otherwise, that I might as well join government, then what should keep that coalition together? For what? For the name? That's why we are saying there is a fundamental disagreement within Azimio that need to be settled, so that those who are still feel that they want to continue playing opposition politics can take their own path, and those who want to go and prop up this government that is very unpopular with the people can do so.
Tell me, what does the Azimio coalition agreement read like? Okay, it says that any party that wishes to withdraw can write and notify and say we are giving notice to withdraw.
Yes, it did.
Can a majority of parties evict a party that they feel is misbehaving?
The agreement is not that elaborate, but it gives the opportunity for a party that wants to quit. You give notice, then you have within 6 months you can be able to leave the coalition.
Essentially, Mheshimiwa, I hear you describing what we call a gentleman's agreement. Because if somebody is given the leeway to quit, but there seems to be uncertainty as to how others can insist they leave.
Well, leaving, you can leave, for sure. That's what I'm saying.
But can others...
Can we insist that you leave?
Can the others push out and say, you're not abiding by, go?
If a majority of members of this coalition party
I would imagine
are dissatisfied with the activities of one of the members of the coalition party, can the majority persuade the minority to get out of the coalition?
There are no provisions for that in the agreement. But if you are a party and you have rules and how you run, you can expel. I'm imagining.
That's why I'm calling it a gentleman's agreement.
You can say, now for you, you can't be our member. And you vote as a coalition, because also it provides for voting for members. Therefore, I would, even though the rules are not provided for, you can vote out a member. Remember this agreement, even the coalition party agreement was done very hurriedly before the last general election.
Yeah.
It was not.
It had issues even then.
Yes, it had issues. And in my view, it has issues even today. But since it was agreed, the political class, as you put it, agreed that we have a coalition political parties. for purposes of approaching the coming elections, because it was felt that parties were splitting in smaller parties. It would be desirable to have two sides. Then that's how that law was crafted.
How did you?
It had issues. It has issues. It is yet to develop, to grow as it, practice. Law sometimes grows as you practice it. And maybe this is part of it.
It was a special purpose vehicle.
Special purpose vehicle.
But I'm piqued about one thing. It was flawed. It was even the papers. Oh, this is what was agreed on. What is being presented is different. We heard all that. But yet, the partners agreed to it. Now, you're all politicians. Why did you all agree to something that was flawed?
Are you talking about the Azimio coalition agreement, or are you talking of the coalition parties law that created the opportunity for parties to form?
No, the agreement that you people had.
The agreement, when I was saying it was flawed, I was talking about the law that created coalition political parties. I said it was a law that was done quickly. It's very minimal in terms of what needs to happen.
The threshold is low.
Yes, it's very minimal, very general. And since it's a new law, it will take time before it develops. And I think even this disagreement that we are having now is part of developing the law. When you disagree, maybe you go to the registrar of political parties, you have maybe an arbitration. You are developing the law, but it is very inadequate in its current form. But the flow in terms of Azimio coming together, I don't get what you're saying in that.
You see, what I'm asking is, if you get together based on a law that is already flawed, then the understanding that has brought you together will therefore, by virtue of this, be flawed. So I was asking the question, why agree to something which you clearly know is flawed? You say it's a work in progress, and you're hoping that with the time and evolution, it'll become better.
Yes, because practice also improves law.
Yes.
Sometimes when you come with new laws, you before you get the real gist of what it is, it takes time to develop.
I agree. However,
and they were done during the heat of the campaigns.
Yes.
And politicians were in grouping.
Yes.
For purposes of approaching the coming election.
Yes.
And that's how that law was crafted.
There's a little detail in this whole discussion.
Yes.
The people themselves. Okay? As politicians, you know each other quite well, because none of you joined this rodeo yesterday. You've been at this thing for some time.
Yes.
You've been in either this coalition or the other coalition, so you understand each other well. What I'm trying to say is there is a certain understanding of expediency that seems to be the hallmark of many political decisions. It looks like, okay, for the purposes of peace, let's do this. But it's more expediency than anything. Let me tell you why I'm focusing on this with regards to you specifically. I followed your tenure as governor.
Yes.
We are information gatherers ourselves, and we talk about it.
For sure.
You are very highly thought of. And people said you had done things they'd never seen before, never thought they would do. You are considered a very effective governor. Now, for that to happen, it means, I'm telling you what I heard, that you understood what your people wanted and you were doing it.
I tried.
The hallmark of it is that your own source revenue is the highest that county has ever seen.
I didn't do very well on own source revenue. I did well in other things.
Has anybody surpassed your track record of own source revenue?
My own source revenue was not my strong point.
Yes.
Yeah, my strong point was the implementation of accountability and ensuring public service delivery.
You see
but of course nobody has suffers there.
The reason why I'm giving this background is this. Somebody who can balance their political life to the point where the citizenry whom they represent have positive things to say, they understand what needs to be done. So now when you're in a coalition like this one, would you say this coalition is actually acting in the best interest of the people whom they say they claim to represent? That's really where I'm going with.
No, I'm getting you completely. You see, you also need to understand coalitions are not the ideal situations. Coalitions, as you're saying,
they're compromises.
Are compromises. They are created when the ideal situation is not working. Because the ideal situation should be a political party becomes dominant because it's telling an agenda and people like it and vote that party. Now, when you see split a party, so many of them coming together, there is something the matter there. It is not an ideal situation. It's a compromise, different ideas coming together, different ideologies to form a coalition. Even what we are calling a government of national unity, whatever they may want to call it,
broad-based,
is a compromise when there is a crisis. But we should be able always to differentiate between a compromise where the driving force is the politician's interest, and a compromise where the country is in a crisis and you really want to save the country also. Now, that's where you, if you say, for example, the accord that was done that time, there was an element of serving the country because we are in a crisis, we are almost a civil war. You needed that to save the country. Now, where you are telling the government that is in place, these things are getting wrong, these are bad things, correct them, and the population is in the streets, there is no crisis that is threatening the country. Then you say, I want to save the country. Where is the country in this arrangement that we have gotten into now? I don't see the country there. I don't see the country. I'm seeing
you're seeing
the political class interest being served at this point.
It is self-interest.
And that's why I think it would be important for also the population, the younger people who have actually taken over the mantle of ensuring the country changes. They shouldn't give up. They shouldn't give up. They need to continue. And they need also to realize the politicians who are there will not always be there. So you can't be over-relying on particular individuals. Whenever there is a crisis, let's look for so-and-so. Those people will not always be there. So it is also important to know a new era is coming. Younger people are taking over the country. Younger people are asking questions and fundamental questions. And it's a good thing.
When you were younger people yourselves, and the others who right now are at the high levels of political governance, you were once younger people. You were agitating, pushing for change as students, and you wanted to get into this thing called government so that you can go in and change the thing called government. Do you see it's like it's the same kind of feeling that the younger generation is with right now? It's the kind of frustration that you had then with the system. Is it the kind of frustration that they have now with the system?
It is a kind of frustration, but in my view, even bigger, given the change that our country has gone through. Looking at the Kibaki years up to now, we opened up the education system, brought in a lot of young people into higher education. Universities opened all over the place, so almost in the village. So you have a highly educated population, but a highly frustrated population because they understand how a country is supposed to run. So the crisis becomes bigger than my time or the time before me, when the the educated people were fewer. People had also not experienced a properly functioning democracy. Remember, from Kenyatta government, then we came to Moi government. Population had not experienced a period where there was real democracy running the country and things happening. So the crisis is bigger. If you put yourselves in the shoes of the young people in this country, you will understand why they are agitated. Because they see us doing things the same way. If I appoint so-and-so from this community and so-and-so from, that's enough. That community should feel satisfied because they have one of their own.
Yep.
Is that how this whole thing is all about? That if I balance on broad-based government, bring it what is calling broad-based, whatever that means, we've solved the problems for the country. Have we created the jobs we need? Have we sorted out the healthcare system that is collapsing? Have we sorted out the issues of education that is in a crisis as we continue, and many, many other issues? So you see that window dressing exercise. That's what makes the young people very annoyed, because they can see it.
It's continuing to
and they won't accept. That's the other thing we need to agree to see, and the people in government need to see. These young people are not going to accept this arrangement. They are going to continue fighting.
What do you see happening next? There are those who have said, the direction that these young people have taken has then, received some accelerant, some infusion by some quarters that is then taking it a different direction altogether, which could usher in anarchy and so on and so forth. Do you agree with those that say this thing can pick up some serious momentum, lose control?
It is very difficult very, very, very difficult to predict what is likely to happen. The only thing I can say is that the quest for change is not going to stop. It is going to grow by leaps and bounds. The decision by the political class to have a rapprochement is going to add oil in the fire. There could be a lull. I don't know. I am not involved in organizing what is happening. What we have been having is an organic movement that is fueled by the issues, the economic hardship that people are experiencing. This can be allowed before the storm. How the storm will play out, I can't tell.
The Gen Z have actually given us an indication of what they want to do and how they want to do it. And no matter how I look at it, it's no wonder that people across the globe want to study this situation, because they are genuinely peaceful. And they insist they are peaceful. The government has also acknowledged that they are peaceful and were until they were infiltrated. So they are peaceful. But the thing that sometimes is lost in conversation is just the sheer numbers. In a time when I was young, we were fewer than those who are older.
Yes.
This is not the case now. Those who are younger are more. They are really more. 71% of our population. That's a huge number. And every year, 1 million enter into that bracket where they are now adults, they can vote. So it's and yet they are talking peace, they are talking non-violence, they're just talking change. And for the first time, I think, in the history of this country, the underbelly of what bedevils a country is actually coming out. And we are seeing that what we refer to as a political class determined to continue in the old ways. Now, that, in my mind, to answer the question, that is what will guarantee their demise. Yes. Because you're talking about change that is upon us, and it's a tidal wave, and you think you can withstand the tidal wave. You can't.
Things you can't do.
You can't.
Look at Sri Lanka. They have been playing this game over the years. There is this group led by this
family,
and there's this other group led by this family. And it has been on like that. One can rig it better than the other. And then it reached somewhere, something gave in. The population said, no. We don't exist to serve these two families or two lines. We exist as people. We require a government that functions for us. Once the population realizes that and joins hands, nothing can remain the same.
That's it.
Yeah, so this whole arrangement, sorry to say so, but this whole arrangement that now let us come together, save the republic, save the country. The country is not collapsing. It is bad politics that people want to collapse. And those bad politics have to be collapsed. They won't be collapsed by the young population. That is, and we've been receiving the warnings of the young population a long time. It's not that it started this conversation now. We've been talking about the youth badge that we've not been preparing for. We've not been running the economy in a way that it can be able to expand sufficiently to absorb these young people so that they have a future. They can think about a future for themselves. There's nothing, either you change or you
perish.
Or you perish.
Peter MUNYA, thank you very much for joining us. So this is an invitation. Come again. Okay.
Thank you.
Peter MUNYA
Looking forward.
is the party leader of PNU. He's been our guest. Keep it here for more.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.